The human brain makes over 35,000 decisions every single day, but neuroscience is revealing something shocking. Most of those choices happen before we're even consciously aware of them. Today, we're exploring how modern science is completely redefining what it means to have free will and be yourself.
That's such a mind-bending concept to start with. And what really fascinates me is how we're finally getting hard evidence for theories that brilliant minds like Freud and Darwin could only speculate about.
Well, you know what's incredible? Scientists have actually pinpointed the exact part of our brain, the medial prefrontal cortex, that creates our sense of self. It's like they've found the physical location of our identity. But here's the wild part. It's not some static control center. This region is constantly being reshaped by everything we experience.
That really challenges the whole idea that personality is fixed by adulthood, doesn't it?
Exactly. Recent studies show our brains remain incredibly plastic throughout our lives. Like, researchers at MIT found that even in elderly subjects, new neural pathways can form in as little as 24 hours with the right stimulation. It completely upends what we thought about cognitive development.
You know what makes me wonder though? If our brains are this adaptable, what does that mean for conditions we've always thought were permanent?
Well, that's where some of the most exciting research is happening. Studies using advanced neuroimaging are showing that conditions like depression and anxiety might actually be more like learned neural patterns that can be redirected. There's this fascinating work being done at Stanford, where they're using AI to map these patterns and design targeted interventions.
The therapeutic implications of that are just incredible. But let me ask you something, how does this relate to all the new brain-computer interface technology we're hearing about?
Oh my goodness, this is where things get really wild. So companies like Neuralink are developing interfaces that can translate neural activity directly into text or computer commands. They've already achieved success rates of over 95% accuracy in early trials. But here's what keeps me up at night. What happens when we can not just read, but write information directly to the brain?
That's both exciting and terrifying at the same time. The potential for helping people with disabilities is amazing, but the privacy implications...
Right. And it gets even more complex when you consider the social aspects of all this. Recent research from the University of California showed that our brains are literally synchronized when we're having meaningful conversations. They found neural patterns actually start to mirror each other in real time.
So in a way, we're not just individuals with separate brains, but part of this larger neural network.
Exactly. And this ties back to some fascinating work being done on collective consciousness. Studies are showing that our sense of self isn't this isolated thing. It's deeply influenced by our social connections. They've found that people in long-term relationships actually start to share similar neural patterns in certain brain regions.
Well, that certainly explains why old couples start to look and act alike. But seriously, how does this change our understanding of consciousness itself?
You know, that's where the latest research is really pushing boundaries. Scientists at the Max Planck Institute have identified what they call the consciousness signature. Specific patterns of brain activity that indicate conscious awareness. But here's the kicker. These patterns appear about 300 milliseconds before we're consciously aware of making a decision.
That really makes you question everything about free will and personal responsibility, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And it's leading to some fascinating legal debates. There was a recent case where defense lawyers tried to use brain scan evidence to argue their clients' actions were predetermined by neural activity. The judge didn't buy it, but it raises huge questions about accountability in an age where we can literally see decisions forming in the brain before conscious awareness.